Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Sight for White and White Sense, welcome you to this week's Talking News. Today it's Friday the 19th of April and we're halfway through the first month of our new year. The charity has a year end of the 31st of March, so we are now into our new year 2024-2025. It does sound a little bit scary saying 2025 at this stage. The accounts are well on their way being prepared. Our AGM will be held on 29th of July, which is also our Members and Volunteers Day, open day here at Millbrooke House. The day is planned with lots of sunshine, hopefully, and if not, we do have gazebos, and it is going to be a real chance for volunteers and members to meet. We are also inviting some of our supporters who very generously donated to the charity, which makes all the activities possible. The newsletter is at the printers and is being returned to us today and will be distributed in its normal channel methods on Monday, the 22nd. Everybody enjoy this little burst of sunshine. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Sight for White and White Sense.
Here is this week's charity news as for the 19th of April. Swimming is on Monday at Medina Leisure Centre, Newport, starting at 1:15 p.m. The cost is £6. We have use of the entire pool, and whether you would like to swim lengths or just enjoy gentle exercise in the water, you are very welcome.
Ion Social is at the RNLI East Cowes on Tuesday morning. This has proved a very popular venue and we are fully booked. We hope everyone has an enjoyable time.
Yoga is on this Tuesday at Millbrooke House, starting at 1:45 p.m. All are very welcome. The cost is £4, including refreshments.
Our weekly coffee and chat is on Wednesday at Millbrooke House between 10 and 11:30. The cost is £2, which includes coffee and cake. Staff are always on hand to help with any inquiries, and equipment will be available to try out.
Thursday is Mix and Mingle. This group meets between 10:30 a.m. and 2 p.m. every week. Booking for this group is essential, and at the moment there is a waiting list for people to join.
On Tuesday the 23rd of April, we have our Eye on Social group, who will be visiting the RNLI factory at East Cowes. It is now fully booked.
On Friday, we have our monthly stride. This is a walk of around 6 miles. This month, the group will be starting at Blackgang and walking up to St Catherine's before enjoying lunch at the White Mouse Inn in Chale.
Also, next Friday the 26th, we will be in Asda Foyer, Newport, with a stand and collection buckets. If you are in store, please pop by and say hello.
Our May Eye on Social is at the Isle of Wight College on May the 21st for a 3-course meal plus tea and coffee, and the cost is £11.50. This is open to everyone, members, volunteers, family and friends. If you would like to come along, please let Susan know.
We held our new group last week called Walk and Talk, which was very popular. Our next date is May 24th, and we will be walking from LA Bowl in Ryde to Puckpool Park for a coffee and cake break.
Our monthly 100 Club has spare balls available. If anyone would like to buy a ball, it is £2 a month or £24 for the full year. The more balls in the draw, the higher the prize money each month. If you would like to take part in our monthly draw, please call the office. This is part of our fundraising activities.
If you would like to join in any activity or want more details, please call the office on 522205.
This is Chris and Brian reading the Talking News from sunny Jersey. This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Teenager sentenced for planning Isle of Wight Festival terrorist attack. A teenager from the Isle of Wight has been sentenced for planning a terrorist attack and other offences. The 16-year-old boy was sentenced at Kingston Crown Court to 7 years imprisonment after being found guilty by a jury at the same court in February this year. After a trial, he was found guilty of 1 count of preparation of terrorist acts under Section 5 of the Terrorism Act 2000. 3 counts of dissemination of terrorist publications under Section 2 of the Terrorism Act 2006, and 1 count of having an article with a blade or point in a public place, contrary to Section 139 of the Criminal Justice Act 1998. The boy, now aged 16, from Cowes on the Isle of Wight, cannot be named or identified for legal reasons. He was arrested in July 2022 following an investigation by Counter-Terrorism Policing South East, CTPSE, after he was found to be planning to attack people he believed had insulted Islam. When arrested, the boy was found with a knife and notes that contained information relating to his plan. He also shared terrorist publication with others online, the ideology of which was influenced by Daesh. He was charged initially in July 2022, then charged with additional crimes in November 2022. Detective Chief Superintendent Ollie Wright, head of CTPSE, said, "We know that terrorist groups use their toxic rhetoric to try and exploit vulnerable people. This case was particularly concerning because a teenager had gone so far as taking active steps to prepare for an attack. Thanks to a swift response, we were able to stop him, and he has now been sentenced to imprisonment as a result of his actions. Where we can, we really do prefer to intervene early and divert young people away from extremism, long before it gets to this point." Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary's area commander for the Isle of Wight, Superintendent Rob Mitchell, said, "This is a really tragic case of a young boy who found himself exploited by propaganda. Cases of this nature are, thankfully, relatively rare, but I do understand this investigation will have had a significant impact on the people of Cowes and the Isle of Wight. No one is exempt from the risk of extremism and terrorism, but together, action counters terrorism, and if you have any concerns that someone you know has been or is being radicalised, you can act early to get them the help they need and deserve."
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. White Noise announces 2024 shortlist. Who will open this year's festival main stage? Who will open the Isle of Wight Festival main stage? Following a successful period of applications from local artists, the White Noise shortlist has been announced. On Thursday, the 25th of April, Strings Bar and Venue will play host to the White Noise Live Music Showcase, in which 7 successful acts will perform a 20-minute set of original music to an industry panel. The panel will then choose an overall act at the end of the evening, who will have the honour of opening the main stage on the Sunday of the festival. Applicants were required to submit via the Amplead portal, which asks for links to recordings, live videos and social media links. The industry panel have considered all this and have shortlisted these acts to perform at the live showcase: Marnie Marie, Georgia Nicole, Chum, 5 Degrees North, Jaded, Amy Jolliffe and Ruby. As well as the winner opening the main stage on Sunday the 23rd of June, All of the finalists will have the opportunity to play on the Platform 1 stage over the weekend. John Giddings, who is one of Platform 1's patrons, has said, "I'm very proud to be a patron of Platform 1. I think they do an incredible job of preparing young musicians for the reality of the music industry. I like helping people, and my work with Platform 1 feels the right thing to do. They have integrity, and they are good at what they do."
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. East Cowes umbrella tree finally free after months in captivity. The popular umbrella tree in East Cowes was set free from its barriers last week. Residents gathered in the town centre on Friday the 12th of April as the barriers, which have surrounded the tree for some time, were taken down. An inspection of the tree, carried out for the Isle of Wight Council in 2017, found that the large weeping ash had a fungal infection. For several years it has been threatened that the tree should be felled. Some 10 months ago, fencing was erected around the tree that stands outside East Cowes Liberal Club. Speaking on the day of the tree's release, Councillor Carl Love said, "Finally, after 10 months of captivity, the umbrella tree is going to be set free later today after a wonderful effort by the Friends of East Cowes Umbrella Tree and East Cowes Community Partnership worked together to raise funds and sort out the many technical issues."
This is Chris, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Isle of Wight Gin Company wins medal at 2024 London Spirits Competition. An Isle of Wight spirit company has received a prestigious national accolade. Island Spirit Gin, the Isle of Wight Gin Company's signature spirit, won a bronze medal at the 7th Annual London Spirits Competition. The title is considered the ultimate seal of approval in the global spirits industry. The awards attracted entrants from more than 50 countries, all looking to benchmark themselves against global competition. Judged in 3 areas, spirits must score well for taste, price and packaging. Isle of Wight Gin is based in Godshill, where the company grows, distills and bottles its gin, rum and vodka. Isle of Wight Gin's Lee Jackman said, "We are over the moon to shine a light on an island-grown and produced product. We are very passionate about taste, so honoured to receive this award." Island Spirit Gin is inspired by the summer breeze on the Isle of Wight, using mainly island botanicals, and is only sold through farm shops, tourist attractions and family-owned businesses. Isle of Wight Gin, a local family-run business, handicrafts its range of gins on the island using a traditional copper still and carefully crafted recipe of local botanicals to make a deliciously smooth London dry gin. The spirit is bottled in an Italian-designed Art Deco style bottle.
This is Brian reading an article from the Island Echo. New emergency phone installed at Whitecliffe Bay thanks to Parish Council. Bembridge Parish Council has restored the provision of an emergency telephone at Whitecliffe Bay. The brand new all-weather phone has been installed near the steps to provide a direct line of contact with the emergency services should assistance be needed. Mobile phone signal can be patchy along this stretch of coast, and recent incidents have proven that the area between Bembridge and Culver Down is hazardous. 2 women had to be rescued from the mud in separate incidents at Whitecliff Bay in March.
This is an article from the Island Echo, read by Terry. Drivers encouraged to take the bus with special £4 Earth Day offer. Southern Vectis is encouraging car drivers to take the bus on Earth Day with discounted all-day travel across the Isle of Wight. The island's bus operator is marking this year's Earth Day, Monday the 22nd of April, by offering discounted travel to people living on and visiting the island. Bus passengers can already take advantage of the single journey fare cap, part of the government's Help for Households initiative, with tickets costing no more than £2. Now, the bus operator is offering anyone using its app a 24-hour Rover ticket at less than half price. Nikki Honor, head of communications, says, "This means adults can enjoy unlimited travel on all our services for the whole of Earth Day for £4. We hope this will encourage them to leave their cars at home for the day and catch the bus instead." Southern Vectis is committed to helping improve the quality of air we breathe here, and we have been working on this in a number of ways. One of these is to invest in new buses here, as well as working with Isle of Wight Council on a successful bid for funding, which will see 22 new electric buses arrive here in 2026. Bus travel has changed beyond recognition over recent years, and those who haven't travelled with us recently will be amazed at the enhancements we've already made. Our buses are more frequent, have more comfortable seating, offer next stop announcements and USB charging points for smartphone users, accept mobile phone payments, as well as contactless and tap-on tap-off, and they sport the very latest Euro 6 low-emissions engines. We hope our Earth Day offer encourages more people to take the bus. If we can convert some car users, even for a few journeys, it could make a huge difference to the local environment in the long term, as well as helping ease the island's congestion issues. Anyone keen to give up their car for the day and take advantage of discounted all-day bus travel on Earth Day can download the operator's app and use the code EARTH, EARTH, of course, 24 to buy their ticket.
This is Chris reading an article from the Island Echo. Get your groove on at the 2024 Wolverton Folk and Blues Fair. A day-long festival of folk and blues is heading to Wolverton Manor in Shorewell next month, the 11th of May. Since its successful launch in 2011, the family-friendly festival has been gaining momentum with fantastic bands and artists each year, along with locally produced food, children's activities, tea tent, and not forgetting the real ale tent. Special guest artists at Wolverton Folk and Blues this year include rising British soul blues artist Mississippi MacDonald, award-winning UK folk stars Three Daft Monkeys, and British blues legends Ruthless Blues. As well as the main stage, the popular beer tent acoustic stage will make a welcome return, providing a full and varied programme, featuring some of the best folk and blues musicians the Isle of Wight has to offer. Other bands and artists include the Raw Blues Project, Dick Taylor and the Pretty Things, Sorrel Nation, #, The Bohemians, Damien Paul Band, the Bryston Barnacles, Wild Roses, Ben Jordan, Rose and Ed, Vulgar, Ventnor Ukes, the Country Bumpkins and Moonshine Border Morris. With an Isle of Wight real ale beer tent, tea tent, barbecue, children's activities, craft stalls and Morris dancing, the Wolverton Folk and Blues Fair is set to be a great opportunity to enjoy top live music and great festival food, set against the backdrop of the beautiful West Wight scenery. Tickets are £12 in advance, £14 on the day, and children 12 and under go free. Advance tickets are available from Waterstone's Bookshop in Newport, the Village Shop in Bryston, Bridlesford Lodge Farm Shop, Wootton and Orchard Brothers, Freshwater Bay.
This is Brian reading an item from Isle of Wight Radio. Goddard's Brewery scoops 4 top industry awards at international competition. Island-based brewery Goddard's is celebrating after scooping 4 top accolades at the prestigious London Beer Competition, which took place last month. A diverse selection of Goddard's brews took home awards, with Planet Lager and Duck's Folly both receiving silver medals. The silver medal was also awarded to South Island Pale Ale, which was developed in collaboration with Boojum and Snark. Core Abbey Ale received a bronze medal. This is the second year the brewery has submitted 4 entries and come back with 4 wins after taking home 4 silver medals at last year's competition. Bob Simpson, managing director of Goddard, said, "To enter 4 beers and receive 4 medals for the second year running is a great achievement. Not only does it demonstrate our consistent production quality, but it also clearly shows that we can compete in a global marketplace." Praise, however, ought to go to our brewing and bottling teams who work together to produce these fantastic products. The awards seek to recognise, reward and help promote beer brands that have successfully been created to identify with and target a specific beer drinker in mind. The marketability and value of the beers therefore play a large part in the judging process, in addition to quality and taste. Beers were judged on 3 primary criteria: quality, value and packaging, and scored on a 100-point scale by a panel of industry experts. Beers that scored 90-plus points were awarded gold medals, while those that scored 76 to 89 points were awarded silver medals, and bronze awarded to beers with 65 to 75 points. You can order Planet Lager, Duck's Folly, South Island Pale Ale and Core Abbey Ale from the Goddard's Brewery online shop, with free delivery to all islanders.
This is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Terry. Isle of Wight MP extols virtues of Joint Emergency Service officers for Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley says he is looking at joint funding for local emergency services in a move to improve efficiency. He said, "There is a model operating in Cornwall where they have joint-funded emergency service officers delivering both emergency and preventative policing, healthcare and fire services. These officers are able to solve community issues in more remote local communities whilst reducing demand on individual emergency services. For example, these roles assist elderly residents who have suffered a fall which otherwise would require an ambulance response, and they help tackle antisocial behaviour which has not escalated to an emergency. I think a similar approach could work on the Isle of Wight," he says. In Cornwall, the official responsibilities of the Tri-Service Safety Officers, or TSSOs as they're called, include emergency fire response, emergency medical response, addressing health inequalities, prevention of antisocial behaviour, safeguarding, youth intervention, community engagement and problem solving, early intervention and prevention, multi-agency and partnership working, razor chairs for lifting patients after a fall, and mental health first aid. Mr. Seeley has written to Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones with a suggestion that the Isle of Wight adopts a similar model. The TSSO model was highlighted by Steve Double, Member of Parliament for St Austell, in Parliament earlier this year, with the Minister for Crime, Policing and Fire, Chris Philp, describing the TSSOs as a shining example of how police, ambulance and fire services can better work together to provide a response.
This is Den reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Family pays tribute to Paul Hart following fatal Newport collision. A tribute has been issued after a man and his dog died following a collision on the Isle of Wight. Police were called at about 10 p.m. on Sunday the 7th of April to a report of a single vehicle collision on Calbourne Road, Newport. This involved a blue Mazda 6 which collided with a tree. The driver, 42-year-old Paul Hart from Newport, suffered serious injuries and sadly died at the scene. A dog was also in the car and was taken to an emergency vet, but it had to be put down due to its injuries. Paul's family have now made the following tribute to him. It is with profound sadness that we announce the passing of a remarkable young man, Paul Anthony Hart, whose life was tragically cut short along with his lovely dog Bailey. His vibrant spirit, infectious laughter and boundless energy touched the lives of all who knew him. He was a beacon of hope, a source of inspiration and a testament of resilience in the face of adversity. His life, though brief, was a testament to the power of love he gave. The world has lost a kind, caring, infectious and joyful man. We are proud to have given this gift to all who knew him. In his memory, let us remember not just the sorrow of his loss, but the joy and love he brought into our lives. Let us honour his legacy by living our lives with the same passion, kindness and generosity that he demonstrated every day. We have been overwhelmed and humbled by the outpourings of support and would like to send a special thank you to all the tireless effort made by all the emergency services throughout this process. Those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day. Peace and love, yo. If anyone who has any information about this collision who has not already spoken to police, please call 101 quoting reference number 4424014625.
Hello, this is Madeline.
And this is Tony.
And we're reading the second part of Talking News.
Voters warned of changed rules in police boss poll. Postal ballot papers are starting to arrive ahead of the election for the next Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police and Crime Commissioner. For those who have registered, papers can be returned until polls close on Thursday, May the 2nd. The Isle of Wight Council has revealed there are more than 18,000 postal voters on the island of a total electorate of 110,725. The rules have changed about who can return the votes, and how they can be submitted. Most postal votes are returned via Royal Mail, but they can also be handed in at the Isle of Wight Council's County Hall during office hours or to any polling station on election day. Voters will be only available to hand in their own postal vote and the postal votes of up to 5 other people. Campaigners can only hand in their own postal vote and postal votes for up to 5 other people who are close relatives or someone for whom they provide regular care. Those handing in postal votes to local authority offices or to polling stations will need to complete a postal vote return form. The candidates standing for election are Conservative Donna Jones, former Portsmouth City Council leader who has held the position since 2021. The Labour Party's Becky Williams, a councillor on Rushmore Borough Council. The Liberal Democrats, Prad Baines, a councillor on Hampshire County Council. For the Justice and Anti-Corruption Party, Don Gerard. On May the 2nd, polling stations will be open from 7 in the morning till 10 at night. Do not forget to take photo ID. The role of the Police and Crime Commissioner, PCC, was created to be the voice of the people and to hold the police to account. They are responsible for allocating funding and overseeing priorities with an aim to cut crime and deliver an effective and efficient police service, according to the Association of Police and Crime Commissioners.
FRD celebrates 100th birthday. The great-grandson of the founder of Blackgang Chine, the UK's oldest theme park, celebrated his 100th birthday on Wednesday. Francis Richard de Bell, affectionately known as FRD or Dick, has spent nearly 70 of those years at the helm of Blackgang Chine and is the man responsible for many of the most iconic attractions, from the model village to the dinosaurs, Fairy Castle and Cowboy Town. He was the pioneer who kept up with the evolution of both the ever-changing landscape and guest expectations. Dick grew up at Blackgang and it seemed his path was set from birth. From his great-grandfather's visionary beginnings to his father's astute development, Blackgang Chine evolved alongside the de Bell family, and Dick was in the thick of it from an early age. He started working in the shop aged 16, but the outbreak of World War II changed his course, and he served as an engineer before returning to the island in 1947. Unsure of his path forward, his father was on hand with advice, with Dick saying, "The governor said if you don't know what to do, you'd better work here," setting him on a trajectory that would define the rest of his days. One day his school friend's annoying little sister turned up at Blackgang Chine. Years later, Josephine became his wife. She was a trained nurse who supported every aspect of the park's operation, from cleaning toilets to managing the shop. He says of his time at Blackgang, "It was hard work, committed 7 days and 5 nights a week, but I've enjoyed my life." On Wednesday, Dick celebrated with a private party with family and close friends at Blackgang, enjoying an impressive cake displaying various parts of his life. Today, Friday, past employees he worked alongside will visit for a small tea and cake celebration. His nephew, Simon de Bell, who worked with him for 33 years, said, "I always admired his passion for both the heritage and future of the family business. In particular, he held an abiding interest in the careers of the young students who had holiday jobs with us, and of course his complete control of Blackgang Car Park.
Experts shell out turtle tips. Recent stormy weather has led to turtles washing up along the south coast, and advice has been issued in case one is found on the Isle of Wight's shores. Although none have been discovered on the island yet, over the last week 3 loggerhead turtles have washed up in different locations not too far away. Experts believe storms and rough seas are likely to have blown them off course, leading to them being stranded in Dorset, Kent and Cornwall. The turtles are cold-blooded and usually live in warm Mediterranean waters. Because of this, British waters are likely to lead to hypothermia. The British Divers Marine Life Rescue is urging anyone who finds one not to put it back in the sea. A spokesman said, unfortunately, the turtle found in Kent was refloated back into the sea by well-meaning members of the public. They will likely be hypothermic and need attention.
Labour confirmed general election candidates. Isle of Wight Labour has named its parliamentary candidates for the forthcoming general election, for which a date is yet to be announced. For the first time, the island will be divided into 2 constituencies. For Labour, Emily Brothers will stand in Isle of Wight East, whilst Councillor Richard Quigley, who previously ran for the party in 2019, will run in Isle of Wight West. Emily said, "Representing Labour is a privilege and exciting opportunity to secure change. I look forward to engaging with local people, community organisations and business in the campaign ahead. Every vote counts, so I'll be working hard to reach out to gain the trust of residents." Richard said, "I'm extremely pleased and excited to be representing the Labour Party at the next general election. My focus is the island, local issues and serving our community. We deserve better." The other candidates to have already been announced for Isle of Wight East are Michael Lilly, Liberal Democrats, Vix Lothian, Green Party, Sarah Morris, Reform Party, and Joe Robertson, Conservatives. The Isle of Wight West, the Green Party's Cameron Palin, Reform UK's Ian Pickering, Conservative Bob Seeley, who is the island's sitting MP, and Liberal Democrat Nick Stewart will all run.
Isle of Wight drone delivery trials. A project which could lead to commercial goods being delivered to the Isle of Wight via drone has been hailed a game changer for those behind it. Although plans are in the early stages, company Intelliports is hoping to partner with the Isle of Wight Council and use the island as a test bed. A 6-month trial proposes launching a drone from a distribution hub in Forley, 400 feet in the air, 5 times a day, to Cowes. Waiting to receive missions would be a 20-foot shipping container based at Morningtown Road car park. If the project was to proceed beyond a trial, there would be no more than 9 deliveries a day. Once on the island, items would be distributed locally. Stakeholders had the chance to quiz developers at an event at Building 41 Northwood on Monday. Among the issues raised were whether the drones could handle windy conditions, the impact on wildlife and the environment, and the benefit to the community. There were also concerns as to whether the scheme could result in delivery drivers' jobs being lost. David Park, Chief of Strategy for Intelliports, said it is not about replacing existing infrastructure, but instead about being innovative in an environmentally friendly way. He said, "There is currently a huge demand for same-day deliveries, but that comes with more vans on the road, and that isn't a good thing for the environment. Our mission is to build a scalable service that can integrate this net zero project in a commercial manner," he said. One resident raised concerns over the impact the drones could have on wildlife at nearby Mornington. Mr. Parks said that is something we would need to look into, as there isn't much historical data on drones and wildlife. He said Monday's high winds, which hit around 35 miles an hour, would have been too much for the drone, adding there was still a long journey before the scheme became a reality. "Are we becoming an Amazon overnight? We want to take things a bit slower," he said. Before plans proceed, further stakeholder consultations and public meetings are due to be held.
Shoplifting pair in court. An Isle of Wight court has heard how two shoplifters targeted a co-op store on multiple occasions. One is now serving a suspended prison term and another waiting to be sentenced. Nina Hoskins, 39, and Gavin Buggs, 43, both of no fixed abode, pleaded guilty to theft offences at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court on Friday, April the 5th. Hoskins admitted 6 counts of theft from a shop, and Buggs admitted his involvement in 2 of them, as well as breaching a community order and a conditional discharge. Lauren Stone, prosecuting, said the pair targeted Co-op on West Street in Ryde, placing items into bags and leaving, making no attempt to pay. Ms Stone told the court that on January the 28th, Hoskins stole chilled food, bakery items and alcohol to the value of £26.40. On February the 12th, Hoskins stole chilled food and alcohol to the value of £19.50. On February the 13th, Hoskins stole greeting cards, flowers and alcohol to the value of £22.55. On February the 16th, Hoskins and Buggs stole bakery items and alcohol to the value of £19.55. On February the 18th, Hoskins stole alcohol to the value of £27.30, before returning with Buggs to steal more alcohol worth £9. Ms Stone said Hoskins has 12 previous convictions for 26 offences, including 14 thefts, and Buggs has 13 convictions for 29 offences, 11 of which were thefts. By committing the thefts, Buggs was in breach of an 18-month community order given to him on December the 15th and a 9-month conditional discharge issued on January the 14th. Oscar Vincent, defending, said both are homeless with no money and alcohol dependence. Mr Vincent described Hoskins as extremely vulnerable with complex needs, and Buggs as suffering from depression and anxiety, among other mental health concerns. Hoskins will return to court for sentencing on May the 21st. Buggs returned to court on Friday, April the 12th, and was handed his last opportunity by magistrates, who sentenced him to 18 weeks custody, suspended for 1 year. He must also pay £14.25 compensation to Co-op and complete an alcohol treatment plan and rehabilitation days.
Line up in the skies for special day. 2 Spitfires have been added to the lineup in the skies over the Isle of Wight for Armed Forces Day. As previously reported, the Red Arrows are already on the Air Asset Bill, and now on the Battle of Britain Memorial Flight has been added. It will be Eyes to the Sky on Sunday, June the 30th. Event organiser and the Isle of Wight's Armed Forces champion Ian Dorr said, "Last year's Spitfire display left an indelible impression on many, and you couldn't have asked for more." Well, we did. The aviation history the island boasts is something to be incredibly proud of, especially when it comes to the Spitfire. For this year's event, we had to go one plane further, making it really special. The Battle of Britain Memorial Flight is sending 2 aircraft to perform a chase display. The display routine is identical to the single fighter display, but is flown with a combination of any fighter aircraft displaying in 100 to 200 feet trail. It is as dramatic as it is exciting, and depending on the aircraft available on the day, it could be 2 Spitfires or 1 Spitfire and a Hurricane. Fishbourne Parish Council is sponsoring this element of the event. The ward has a war memorial on it, which a number of RAF personnel are commemorated. One is Sergeant Edmund Eric Shepherd, who joined the RAF in 1935. During the Battle of Britain, as a sergeant pilot with 152 Squadron, he was credited with the destruction of various German aircraft, including an Me-109, 3 Junkers and a Stuka. In October 1940, he was killed instantly when his Spitfire crashed as he was returning to his base at RAF Warmwell in Dorset. He was buried in the same cemetery as his father, who died during the First World War. The flypast will be extra special for Fishbourne. Ian said, "War should never be glorified or celebrated, but remembered and commemorated. Along with many others, we are forever in Sergeant Shepherd's debt." Ian added, "As we look to the skies to catch sight of the display, let us not lose sight of that debt. As they tip their wingtips, let us tip our hats to those that never returned."
Sorry end for shore sharks. A number of smooth-hound sharks have been found dead on beaches across the island. From Thorness to Compton Bay, islanders have reported finding the shallow water species washed up. Laura Ball was out walking on the beach at Thorness Bay last Thursday when she saw 5 of them on the shore. She told the county press, "They were all quite big and there were a few smaller ones. It was so sad." She said she checked to see if they were alive so she could put them back in the water, but they weren't. "My 6-year-old is a huge shark lover, so he was so upset," she said. Meanwhile, Sophie Louise was also walking along the same beach and said she saw 8 of the shark species washed up. Charity Shark Trust has confirmed some are starry smooth hounds, which can be identified by their speckled white spots. Other recent sightings have been reported at Compton Bay and on the beach near Quor Abbey. To report a smooth hound or other shark species washed up, head to the Shark Trust app or use the online recording form.
Man punched girlfriend outside takeaway. A man who told a takeaway worker he would cut her like a kebab meat and who punched his girlfriend has been sentenced. Jack Taylor of Captain's Parade East Cowes appeared before Isle of Wight magistrates last month. The 25-year-old, who did not attend his trial, was found guilty of assault by beating and using threatening and abusive words to cause alarm or distress. Liz Miller, prosecuting, said Taylor got into an argument with his girlfriend and told her he was going to punch her outside Newport High Street's Ephesus Pizza and Grill on March 29, 2023. A staff member tried to intervene before Taylor shouted abuse and homophobic slurs and said, "I'm going to cut you up like kebab meat." Taylor proceeded to grab his girlfriend and whack her head and continue to punch her. When told by staff to leave, Taylor threatened, "I'm going to slash you in a minute." Michael McGoldrick, defending, said medication has had a positive effect on his client. Magistrates handed Taylor an 18-month community order to include a 12-month drug rehabilitation requirement and a 12-month restraining order. He must complete 180 hours unpaid work and pay £650 costs and a £114 surcharge.
Hit and run woman 62 was having a meltdown. A woman has been banned from driving after crashing into a truck carrying a family of 4 before fleeing the scene in panic. On April the 9th, at the Isle of Wight Magistrates Court, Lois Jane Southgate of Whitecroft Park, Newport, pleaded guilty to driving without due care and attention and to failing to stop after a road accident. Liz Miller, prosecuting, said the 62-year-old pulled out from Merston Junction onto the A3056 in her Audi Q3 on February the 2nd, 2024. Southgate took the corner wide, crossing onto the wrong side of the road, said Miss Miller. A truck carrying a family of 4, including 2 children, was travelling in the opposite direction. Despite the driver's best efforts, the 2 vehicles collided, the court heard. Miss Miller told the court the impact shunted the truck sideways and upwards, damaging the driver's side, but Southgate continued to drive away towards Blackwater. The prosecution said police contacted Southgate several days later, rather than her coming forward, despite viral social media posts identifying her vehicle. Neil Davis, defending, said his client had travelled to visit her partner in Merston but could not find him at a horse paddock. On her return, Southgate made a misjudgment while turning around the slightly awkward bend, he said. Mr. Davis told the court that, at the time of the incident, Southgate was experiencing a meltdown, and in the moment she panicked. The court heard Southgate suffers from multiple sclerosis, diagnosed in 2012, and had recently found out some bad news about her condition, causing additional stress. Mr. Davis said Southgate's details were handed to police by her partner and that he had been liaising with the police to make things right. The best mitigation of Miss Southgate would be that she is a lady of 62 years of age, of impeccable character and a clean driving licence, Mr. Davies said. Magistrates handed Southgate a £735 fine and ordered her to pay a £294 surcharge and £85 in costs. Southgate was disqualified from driving for 9 months.
MP made patron of reading rooms. Isle of Wight MP Bob Seeley has been made a patron of the Bryston Reading Rooms and Social Club, a club built by his ancestors over 100 years ago. The reading room was built in 1905 by Mr. Seeley's great-great-grandfather, Sir Charles Seeley, to encourage literacy. It was gifted to the community in 1928 by Sir Hugh Seeley as a reading and coffee room. It later became the base for Bryston Social Club, which provides facilities for snooker, pétanque and social events. Mr. Seeley accepted the role of patron at the club's AGM on April the 5th. He said, "It was a privilege to be asked to be patron to help future-proof the club that my ancestors built over 100 years ago. I am thrilled that people are still using it today and membership figures are rising. The snooker and billiards tables are among the best on the island and the drinks are good value too. The club has increased its membership from 90 to around 160 members over the past year." Club chairman Graham Ockenden said, "Bob is already helping raise the profile of the club so we can continue to grow our membership and carry out improvement works."
Vandals run riot at Ride Pavilion. Vandals have damaged part of the historic Ride Pavilion on Ride Esplanade. Painted railings around the landmark Grade 2 listed buildings were smashed up and torn away from the seafront property last Friday evening. The pavilion building has housed a bowling alley for more than 30 years and in recent years become Ride Super Bowl. Before that, however, the building, built in the 1920s, was the Eastern Esplanade Pavilion Theatre and hosted many grand occasions. The pavilion was refurbished in the early 1990s to stop it from being knocked down. Instead, it was turned into an entertainment centre for the seafront, complete with a nightclub. A plaque marking its refurbishment was unveiled by former Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher in March 1992, while she was on the general election campaign trail.
County Press to star in new Sky TV show. The Isle of Wight County Press will feature in hit Sky TV show Hold the Front Page next week, alongside comedians Josh Widdicombe and Nish Kumar. Filming for the second series of the comedy took place last year, with the funny duo finding out what it's really like to be local reporters. As our newest recruits, they were let loose on the island public and were even allowed to take over the County Press's Facebook page for some interesting Facebook Live videos. From Cows Week and Princess Anne's arrival to Sandown Carnival, the Floating Bridge and the island's National Poo Museum, reporting for Britain's biggest selling local newspaper saw them cover a wide range of stories. Asked what it was like at the Poo Museum, Nish Kumar said it was an interesting afternoon, but revealed he didn't leave his own sample. He said it was eye-opening and the guy did ask me if I would like to make a deposit, which I did not. Meanwhile, Josh Widdicombe said he found filming Facebook Lives incredibly difficult. He said, "You just feel very exposed, don't you? And you feel like an idiot, and they think you are an idiot. Maybe you are an idiot." Hold the Front Page looks at local journalism through the eyes of the celebrity club reporters. Series 1 saw the pair visiting newspapers around the country, interviewing guests, writing up stories, and delivering news in their quest for a front page. A synopsis for episode 1 of series 2, titled Isle of Wight County Press, reads, "The boys develop a bitter rivalry with a fellow journalist, meet Princess Anne, Annika Rice, and some controversial nudists, and get lost at sea in one of the biggest sailing races in the world." Season 2 launches with the County Press's episode on Wednesday, April 24th at 9 o'clock at night.
Castle developers taking advice following refusal. The owners of Norris Castle in East Cowes say concerns over the plans, dubbed a millionaire's playground by one town councillor, could have been addressed if they had been given more time. However, those opposed to the complex scheme for the historic castle, its grounds and surrounding land, which was turned down by the Isle of Wight Council's planning committee this week, said they were relieved. A spokesperson for NECG, which owns the Grade 1 listed property, accused County Hall of poor communication and told the county press they were taking advice on whether the ongoing damage can withstand the time it takes to appeal the decision. We have always stated we require a viable planning solution to invest further funds. For East Cowes, Councillor Carl Love said, "It's been 8 years and I feel completely exhausted but relieved. The scheme to turn Norris Castle into a luxury hotel, its farm, walled kitchen garden and outbuildings into a wellness centre, its Grade 2 listed pump house into a clubhouse, its Grade 2 listed cattle shelters into a residence, and to build retail and restaurant facilities was unanimously refused on Tuesday." NECG said it had not been engaged with, arguing the scheme would protect the castle's heritage. However, Councillor Love called it a good day for the people of East Cowes and our natural heritage, a feeling echoed by those who turned out to watch the meeting in a room at County Hall. The 76-hectare site off New Barn Road, adjacent to the Osborne and Barton Manor estates, was bought by NECG for £4.7 million in 2015. Also under consideration were plans for a swimming pool, hotel suites, accommodation built within the sea wall, a boathouse and a slipway. Objecting to a proposed new access road, East Cowes Mayor Tracy Reardon said, "We have huge concerns regarding extra traffic. Our esplanade is much used and much loved." Deputy Mayor Cameron Palin dismissed the plans as hoping to make a millionaire's playground of the castle. Controversially, a site visit was replaced by a virtual walkthrough when a mutually acceptable date was not agreed, but most of those voting agreed it had been a suitable alternative. "Norris Castle is a truly special place," said one of the spokespeople for the developer at the planning meeting, arguing the landscape and buildings were in decline long before the 2015 purchase. Committee member Councillor Matthew Price said the plans were an absolute travesty. Councillor Jonathan Bacon said the site could be perfect for a 5-star hotel, but he had a raft of serious concerns over plans for possibly the most important heritage site on the island. The owner could now appeal the decision or could decide to put the site back on the market.
Garden visitor. Driver flees after freak Mini crash. The search is on for the driver of a Mini who crashed into 2 front gardens in Sandown, then fled the scene in the middle of the night. A Mini was abandoned in a front garden in Perone Way in the early hours of Saturday. Police confirmed on Sunday that no arrests have been made and inquiries are underway to find those responsible. A spokesperson said, "We were called at just before 1:45 in the morning on Saturday to reports that a vehicle had left the road and entered the front gardens of 2 properties on Perone Way in Sandown. Police attended and found the vehicle unattended. No injuries have been reported. We are considering inquiries to establish what happened and to identify those involved. No arrests have been made at this time.
Islanders share Pompey joy. The island's Portsmouth Football Club fans were among the thousands at Fratton Park who watched their side gain promotion to the Championship on Tuesday night. A 3-2 home win against Barnsley saw Pompey crowned League One champions. Dozens of islanders made the trip to the mainland to watch the all-important match. There were joyous scenes at the final whistle as hordes of spectators invaded the pitch in celebration. Among the islanders who travelled was Angie Cooper, who said, "It was a fantastic, nail-biting evening." She captured this brilliant video of jubilant fans running on the field at full time. And it wasn't just fans who were at the game from the Isle of Wight. A St John ambulance crew made their way over to assist with the match day cover. Islanders Brandon Curtis Vine and Paul Brading each watched from the stands, as did Graham Attrell and friends. And Ryan Cooper managed to film Colby Bishop's penalty, which drew the game level in the 82nd minute. Also watching on were Gary and Debbie Hall from Plaza Ices, who said, "What a night, what a team." It wasn't all plain sailing for the Blues on the pitch, though. They twice found themselves behind, and it wasn't until the 89th minute that they took the lead, thanks to Connor Shaughnessy. From next season, the South Coast will take on the Championship, a division they last played in the 2011-12 season.
Parents voice concerns at planned school closures. Parents have been voicing their concerns as the council looks to tackle surplus school places on the island. An island-wide review is once again being undertaken, which could lead to the closure of some schools. But some parents say there are more questions than answers. The local authority insists change is needed as there are currently too many school places and not enough pupils to fill them. Having previously come under fire for publicly naming schools earmarked for possible closure, this time round the council is taking a different approach. It plans to launch a formal consultation, but not before a series of public drop-ins for parents and staff are held. At a session at the Riverside Centre, Jade Kennett, Service Manager for Strategic Development at the Council, said the issue of surplus places needs addressing. She said in 2014 we had roughly 1,400 children entering the school system at reception age each year. By September 2027, we anticipate that decline into 920 pupils, so almost a third less. Before we name schools, we'll be speaking to the public. We have done these sessions as engagements so that we can give and get the level of understanding. Among those at the drop-in session were parents of 3, Bonnie and Sean Hastings. They said the council's previous approach of naming schools was farcical and questioned what would happen if the schools are closed now. But years down the line, pupil admission numbers boom. Parent Jason Thomas, who works in the school and is a governor, said he understands the process has got to happen, but he admits he does have worries. He said a major concern for lots of people is what's going to happen to our jobs? What's going to happen to those children from closed schools? Also at the sessions is information on plans to increase school places for children with special educational needs. The council wants to expand St George's School by creating a satellite provision at the former studio school in East Cowes. Upcoming drop-in sessions: Monday, April 22nd, Ride Academy 5:30 to 7:30 at night. Wednesday, April 24th, Cowes Enterprise College 5:30 to 7:30 at night. Thursday, April 25th, the Bay Church of England School, Sandown 5:30 to 7:30 at night. Wednesday, May the 1st, Wroxall Community Centre 5:30 to 7:30.
Island eagle makes channel crossing. A second white-tailed eagle, reintroduced on the island, has successfully travelled across the English Channel, covering 1,200 miles during her trip to mainland Europe. Known as flying barn doors, white-tailed eagles became extinct on the UK's south coast in 1780, with the last pair having bred on Culver Down, north of Sandown. In 2019, Forestry England and the Roy Dennis Wildlife Foundation began their reintroduction programme on the island, and last year the partnership reached a major milestone with the birth of England's first wild white-tailed eagle chick in over 240 years. Early last month, local photographer Claire Jacob captured an unprecedented encounter in Newtown when a grey seal spat a jet of water at a sea eagle, a defensive behaviour never reported before. Up until a few weeks ago, a male known as G463 was the only eagle reintroduced on the island to cross the channel when he spent 2 successive summers in mainland Europe in 2021 and 2022. But at the end of last month, a female known as G818 followed suit. On March the 22nd, she flew across the south coast of the island and spent time at Brading Marshes before crossing the Solent and travelling to Dover the next morning. She took a swift half-hour flight across the channel, which landed her west of Calais. The eagle spent the next fortnight in northwest France, crossing Normandy and Brittany, and passing through cities like Rouen and Caen. While in Brittany, photographer Maud Bachet snapped her hunting wildfowl in the wetlands of a French nature reserve. On April the 8th, after doubling back and travelling northeast, she crossed the channel in 27 minutes to return to British shores. She has since arrived at one of her favourite locations in the Avon Valley, having flown a total of 2,062 kilometres, that's 1,281 miles, in 22 days.
Victorian Gateway Ride has got the lot.
Beaches at Putpool and Apley, offering miles of sandy shores. The beaches in Ryde boast picturesque views of the Solent and Portsmouth. In the summer, they're a great place for a dip and somewhere to amuse the children. They have dedicated lifeguards and are more accessible than ever, with the purchase of sand and sea wheelchairs and walkers. If you fancy a walk, why not head to Apley and Putpool? Along the way, you'll come across cafes, the historic Apley Tower, which has undergone restoration work, and plenty of play parks for the children. Activities and amusements. From a bowling alley to a pool hall, there's lots to do. On the Esplanade, you'll find Ride Super Bowl and Laser Quest and Rocket Ronnie's. There is also a Game On in Union Street, which boasts plenty of retro games. Nightlife, pubs and bars are plenty in Ryde. There is the Star Coffee and Ale House in the High Street. On Union Street you'll find Yelf's, Coburg's and the Black Sheep Bar, among others. On the Esplanade there is the Royal Esplanade Hotel and the King Lud. Bingo and Cinema. Commodore Cinema first made its debut in Ryde in 1936 and at the time was the largest cinema on the Isle of Wight. As Leo Leisure, it is still standing proud today and offers great value for money at just £4 a ticket. The bingo hall next door is also popular.
Ingenuity unites roads and rivers. One of the high offices of the Roman Empire was Pontifex Maximus, supreme bridge builder. Nations needed to be able to cross rivers, whether for war or commerce. Ferries could do this, but could never be as efficient as roads. But ships became bigger as the time went on, culminating in the tall ships, the tea clippers, and other big ships. And to some extent, bridges and big ships were incompatible. The bridges obstructed the ships. Great ingenuity was used during and after the Industrial Revolution to allow road and river transport to coexist. In Teesside, where I grew up, there are two very good examples of the solutions which were found. The early one is the Tees Newport Bridge. At the time of its construction, the stone bridge joined Stockton and Durham to Thurnaby and Yorkshire, was crossing closest to the mouth of the Tees. The new bridge, a couple of miles east of the old, consisted of a tall metal pillar on each bank and a roadway over the water connecting the bases of the pillars. When a tall ship needed to pass under, that section of the roadway could be raised bodily in one piece to the top of the two pillars. There were counterweights on each pillar which equaled the weight of the roadway, and pulley wheels at the top of the pillars, so that as the roadway went up, the counterweights came down, and it was safe for a couple of men to do it by muscle power, though motors were added later. I lived in Stockton and worked for a while in Middlesbrough and sometimes cycled across it. In rainy and windy weather, I would be wearing a cape and the wind whistling down the river through the open work of the side pieces made this a very tricky business. In time, another bridge closer to Middlesbrough was needed and the transporter was built. In this case there were towers on each bank, but they were joined at the top by a metal span on which a trolley affair moved periodically from one side to the other. Suspended from the trolley was a platform on which pedestrians, vehicles and even livestock were transported. For children this was fun, and enterprising people should climb the towers and walk over the river. When I was about 10 years old, my elder brother took me across the top. When my son was about 10, I took him similarly. However, when we descended on the other side, we found the exit was blocked and unmanned. Perhaps I had missed a notice on the other side. Most people ascended from Middlesbrough, took photos and descended back to Middlesbrough. Luckily, with the help of a couple of passing workmen, we were able to climb over the barriers rather than reclimb the 10 staircases.
Building affordable homes for islanders is priority, by Phil Jordan. The shortage of real affordable homes is a pressing issue for our island, and one that requires multifaceted solutions, creative approaches and determination to overcome the financial constraints that have been holding us back for far too long. We must find a way of getting these houses built, simply to provide homes for our upcoming families and younger people, those wanting to start out on the housing ladder and those struggling to find a house to live in, rented or bought. We're not seeking to overbuild, to simply put up houses wherever we can at any price. We're looking to find ways of providing houses for the demand for island residents. That means, where possible, a mixture of truly affordable houses to rent or to buy, preferably in smaller developments designed to meet all the demands of net zero, sustainable properties, and built with islanders primarily in mind. We need to make certain islanders come first and ensure we are not building homes specifically that attract people moving here, usually to retire. It is a complicated financial conundrum, but one we have started to make happen this year. In our 2024-25 budget, we set aside £2 million to be spent on providing houses. That figure is due to increase to £5 million shortly, following the completion agreement of a capital windfall for a recently finished large development. But that is just a start. We are publishing a list of non-greenfield sites, usually referred to as brownfield sites, next week, about 20 sites, which the Council will make available across a range of providers and in partnership delivering a range of houses. We are in talks with temporary housing providers, modular home providers, traditional builders, developments and agents, all from the private sector, housing association providers and more to get the houses built and provided. We have been in talks with rent-to-buy scheme providers and already planning for socially rented homes to be made available. We are determined to provide these homes at an affordable price where possible. The Council is faced with many hurdles to overcome. Adult social care is an enormous strain on our finances, where almost 70% of our total budget goes on that provision alone. However, our focus must be to the future and to those seeking a house to live in. I am committed entirely to getting these houses built. No longer can we listen to those denying our islanders a chance. Action is going to be the key word I am using in the corridors of County Hall. Change is a-coming.
Performance on Saturday the 20th of April. Abbey Brass in concert at 7:30 at night. Abbey Brass present brass band music for all tastes at Bembridge Methodist Church, 73 Foreland Road, Bembridge. We have an email address which is simonsmith1968@yahoo.co.uk. Traditional Midsummer Fair to return. A traditional Isle of Wight village fair is making a return this summer. The Shorewell Midsummer Fair is back on Saturday, June 15th and runs between 1:30 and 5 in the afternoon. For the second consecutive year, the traditional village fair will be held on the grounds of Wolverton Manor in Shorewell. Many attractions and stalls will be run by local people and organisations, and all proceeds go to the local community. This year there will be a tea tent and arena events, including a falconry display, a dog demonstration and live music. There will be free parking adjacent to the venue and a low admission price, with children under 16 entering for free. One of the last surviving original fairs on the island, the Shorewell Midsummer Fair promises family entertainment and a memorable afternoon for all.
Good clean fun in store. The next production in Cowes Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society's 127-year history at Trinity Theatre Cowes is a comedy by Ed Weil and Trevor Wood. The comedy focuses on three traditional cleaning ladies, Elsie, Gladys and Olive, who are suddenly told they are over the hill. Will they be able to survive redundancy, or can they find an alternative source of income and maybe get their own back? Head to the theatre to find out. The cast includes Dave Newton, Fiona Gwinnett, Julie Stonestreet and Maria Wilkinson. The play is set in the 1990s in the north of England, with performances on April the 19th, 20th, 25th, 26th and 27th, all at 7:30 p.m.
X Factor's G4 to bring shows home to the island. Cowes resident Mike Christie, one quarter of the vocal harmony group G4, is delighted to be bringing the group's 20th anniversary tour home to the Isle of Wight. The Kings of Pop Era are performing 70 shows around the UK for their anniversary, and by the time they finish their Christmas tour, they will have played 100 dates, including 2 on the island. They also have a new album out in which the vocals were recorded at a studio in Chale. The music video for the new song, Monsters, features the Chale studio. The album is entitled 20, marking 2 decades since they rose to fame on the X Factor, and it features their take on modern hits including by Olivia Rodrigo, Miley Cyrus and Billie Eilish. Soaring ballads and theatrical showstoppers, which their fans have come to expect, also feature. The G4 tour will be at Medina Theatre on June the 5th. The Christmas tour will be at Newport Minster on November the 8th as a preview to the group's popular annual cathedral tour. Mike is the founder and organiser of White Proms, which is back at Northwood House from August the 11th to the 18th, and White Proms Wednesdays, which run regularly at Northwood House and the Isle of Wight Garlic Farm.
May Sunshine Wanted for Wolverton Festival. Wolverton Folk and Blues Fair, a day-long festival of music set in the stunning grounds of Wolverton Manor, takes place on Saturday, May the 11th. From its successful launch in 2011, the family-friendly festival has been gaining momentum with fantastic bands and artists each year, along with locally produced food, children's activities, tea tent and a real ale tent. Special guest artists this year include Mississippi MacDonald, 3 Daft Monkeys and Ruthless Blues. As well as the main stage, the popular Beer Tent acoustic stage will provide a full and varied programme of some of the island's best folk and blues musicians. The festival raises funds for leukemia research, cancer support and Bryston School. Tickets cost £12 in advance, £14 on the day. Children 12 and under are free. Advance tickets are available from Waterstone's Bookshop in Newport, the Village Shop in Brystone, Bridlesford Lodge Farm Shop, Wootton Bridge and Orchard Brothers in Freshwater Bay.
Music comedy comes to Shanklin Theatre. The ever-popular Island Savoyards are back at Shanklin Theatre this month with the hilarious musical comedy Me and My Girl. The plot of this multi-award winning musical revolves around Bill Snibson, a Lambeth costermonger, a fruit seller, who is revealed to be the new Earl of Hereford, and his newly discovered aristocratic relations are horrified. Bringing him to Harefield Hall, they attempt to educate Bill in the ways of the gentry and to separate him from his cockney girlfriend, Sally. The result? Chaos of the most comical kind, with a host of amusing characters, witty one-liners, and several toe-tapping, uplifting songs, including the famous Lambeth Walk, The Sun Has Got Its Hat On, and Leaning on a Lamppost. Me and My Girl is a sublime and sunny treat for all the fans of musical comedy. Rob Bingham and Alice Burton-Jones head the line-up as Bill Snimpson and Sally Smith, along with a host of other principal characters, including Hannah Nixon as Lady Jackie, Simon Aspey as Gerald, Diana Aspinall as the Duchess of Dean, and Paul Stevens as Sir John, plus a great ensemble cast. The show is directed by Peter Reed, with Steve Burton as musical director, and the choreography is by Maurice Kachuk. Performances are at Shanklin Theatre on April the 25th, 26th and 27th at 7:30 in the evening, and April 28th at 2:30 in the afternoon. Tickets are available from the theatre box office in person by calling 868000 or online via isleofwight.observer/Me and My Girl.
Afternoon opera on Saturday the 29th and Sunday the 30th of June, 2:30 at the Abbey Marquee. A performance of Puccini's opera Sister Angelica will be performed by the Voices of the Isle of Wight. Producer Linda Philby Barrett, musical director James Longford, and director Belinda Williams, and the tickets are £20.
Forthcoming events at Shanklin Theatre in April and May. On Thursday the 25th to Sunday the 28th, the Island Savoyards, Me and My Girl. On Thursday the 2nd of May and Thursdays at 8:15, Beyond the West End. On Sunday the 4th of May at 7:30, Genesis Connected. On Saturday the 11th of May at 7:30, ABBA Reunion. On Friday the 17th of May at 7:30, The Furies. New Spring 2024 brochure is now out.
And now for some letters to the editor. Bus caution from Sam Turner, Sandown. The Southern Vectors website is full of their order for 22 electric buses coming to the island in 2026. This is fine, of course, but I just hope by the time we get ours, the technology has improved drastically to stop electric buses catching fire. 3 have caught fire in London over the past few months, 2 in a bus garage and 1 on a school run in South London, widely reported in the national media at the time. It has also been widely reported how difficult it is to contain a fire in battery-fuelled motor vehicles compared to fossil-fuelled motor vehicles. Therefore, we must be cautious and wary.
Wrong focus. A letter from Graham Rowlinson in Ryde. Can anyone tell me what the government are doing to fulfil their levelling up promises, avoiding another recession, prevent councils going bankrupt, reduce National Health Service waiting lists, solve the housing crisis, shelter the homeless, or tackle climate change? Oh, I see. There's no time to run the country because they've been totally focused on flying a few hundred poor souls to Rwanda. Well, how's that going at least? Oh, sorry, shouldn't have asked.
Not in My Name by David McKinley of Knighton. I was surprised to read in the County Press of the 12th of April Bob Seeley's view that we should double down on our support for Israel. The fact is that the Israelis believed that God gave them the land over which they are now fighting, so the tragic level of destruction of both infrastructure and life they are inflicting in Gaza, which the South African government has described as genocide, is unsurprising. When Israel is found to have been in breach of international law, those countries that have supported it must be considered complicit. I cannot understand why our government is putting us in this position. As a Christian, I say, not in my name.
T. White of Lake writes, Dear Editor, in reply to Jane Burton from Rookley's letter Ireland Soapbox April the 5th, she has obviously not been following the whole war from October the 7th, 2023, when Israel was attacked by Hamas, a terrorist group armed by Iran. Israel has every right to defend its country, as Ukraine are doing after Russia's invasion. Hamas are the ones who don't care about the Palestinians, as they have built underground tunnels, neat hospitals, etc., and used them as human shields. Hamas raped and killed Jews in their beds, including babies. Israel has to carry on until the last Hamas stronghold is destroyed, or the war will just continue. God gave the whole country of Israel to the Jewish nation. This current attack from Hamas is yet another persecution of the Jews. Why are people blinded to the truth? Do people prefer to support terrorists? If the UK were attacked, or the USA, we would fight to defend our land and citizens. It is right to stand with Israel.
How can these people live with themselves? From Caroline Luff in East Cowes. My dream was to be near my lovely family and live on the beautiful Isle of Wight. We were so lucky to have that chance. I'm so furious to see the butchering of trees. There is no reason for the devastation. These trees are straight, mature trees, at a time of nesting too. There is no good reason at all. The nutty tree cutters are taking the beauty from the island. In East Cowes and Newport that I have seen, it's dreadful. The devastation caused is so upsetting. Trees give us oxygen, store carbon and give life to wildlife. Trees purify the air we breathe and combat climate change. We've got to care about the environment. Trees are an important part of that. I hope I'm not alone feeling so sad that there are such idiots about who don't question what they are doing. It's not a job to be proud of. Come and see for yourselves how awful the trees look now in East Cowes.
Raising awareness of AI app dangers. Name and address of the writer have been withheld. As a parent, I really want to raise awareness about some of the negative impact this new wave of AI apps is having in our schools. ChatGPT was mostly fine. It seemed to impact homework a bit, but teachers started using AI checkers and switched to more in-person testing and seemed to have the situation handled. But this next wave of AI apps seems far, far more dangerous, and I'd really like to see them age restricted or banned. There is one site, for example, that ran through our schools causing massive issues. On the site, you can submit a picture of yourself or anyone else, and it will use AI to rate every aspect of your appearance out of 10 while going into detail on your faults. It's horrible. If you thought Instagram was doing damage to our kids' self-esteem, you should see the effect this has. My daughter was crying because some of the boys in her class put her on the app and shared her score. It's just awful. The kids have a list of their scores ranked. Even the kid doesn't want to use the website. they'll just take a photo from their social media. In some cases, they'll take pictures of other kids themselves. The school can't really do anything because even if they banned phones, the kids would just use them outside school. I got taken completely by surprise, and I don't want this to happen to other kids or parents. Any awareness would be a massive help for parents who might not even know their kids are going through this.
And that's all we've got time for today, so it's goodbye from Madeline.
And it's goodbye from Tony.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening. Tonight it's something of an audio description special. Later on we're going to be looking at the theatre company which has given audio description a central role in one of its productions.
On scooters and bicycles with shining headlights. Oh, I know this lot, it's those pesky mechanicals again. Flute the Bellows Mender is on rather a large bicycle with enormous headlights. Do you think maybe he's compensating for something?
But first, while the use of AD commentary to support visual content can now be found widely all over the place in museums, stately homes, art exhibitions, cinemas of course, one of its major roles has been to help visually impaired people follow what's happening on the telly. There's no doubt that for many people it's considerably enhanced the ability to enjoy TV programmes. But we also know from your comments to us that it's not always implemented as well as it could be by the major channels. We get complaints, for instance, about erratic use on popular series, AD appearing either late or disappearing altogether in the middle. And of course then there's the issue of how much content is actually audio described. Well, Ofcom, the communications regulator, has just produced the latest of its guidance to TV and streaming providers about what they should be doing. I'm joined by Helen Shaw of Ofcom's Content Policy Team. First of all, Helen, before we talk about what the new report actually says in your recommendations, can we just clarify Ofcom's role and powers? As a regulator, what can you do and what can't you do?
We're responsible for enforcing the legal requirements on broadcasters to provide audio description. The target for broadcasters is to audio describe 10% of their programmes, so we're responsible for enforcing that. In practice, many broadcasters do go beyond the 10%, and there aren't yet legal requirements for video on demand providers, so providers like ITVX or Now or Amazon Prime Video, but there is a bill going through Parliament at the moment called the Media Bill that is going to introduce similar requirements for on-demand services. These best practice guidelines that we've published today, they are more focused on how broadcasters make sure their access services are high quality and easy to use.
OK, we'll come back to the media bill that's going through, but on the issue of the recommendations, I mean, what are your main recommendations now?
So we've made 3 main changes to our guidelines. Firstly, we've expanded them to cover on-demand accessibility and to include new advice for on-demand providers on things like offering customisation options where possible, which could be increasing the size of subtitles for people that have sight loss or hearing loss. And we've also introduced new guidance on making audio description easier to find on on-demand services, as we know from our research that can be difficult. And then secondly, we now want providers to think about accessibility right from the start of making programmes, and that could include integrating descriptions of information into programmes that don't have audio description, so programmes like quiz shows. For example, if a presenter reads out the on-screen text as it appears on screen, which could be, for example, how much money someone has won, then that could really make the difference to whether that programme is accessible to someone with sight loss.
What about the issue of what proportion of programmes are audio described in the first place? I mean, you've mentioned the 10% figure. A lot of visually impaired people think that that's, woefully low.
So the 10% target for broadcast television is set out in legislation. So ultimately, it's a matter for government. But we do absolutely encourage broadcasters to see that as a bare minimum requirement and go beyond it wherever possible. In practice, many broadcasters are exceeding that target. So the BBC, ITV, Channel 4 and Sky have all voluntarily committed to audio describe at least 20% of their programmes. In practice, many broadcasters go even beyond that. So Channel 4 now audio describes over 50% of its programmes on its main channel.
So, I mean, is there any chance of getting more equity? You know, but people will ask the question, well, if Channel 4 can do 50%, why can't the BBC? Why can't Sky?
We do encourage broadcasters to progressively increase the accessibility of their services, but we do understand that, you know, it does take time and it's not always straightforward. But, you know, I do hope that when the media bill comes into place, then, you know, your listeners will notice a difference in the accessibility of on-demand services.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in our other guest in a moment, but just because you raised the media bill, which is currently being debated in Parliament, what effect do you think that will have when it becomes law? Because I've looked at a number of the recommendations that it makes. One thing that immediately strikes you, that quite a lot of them are going to take quite a long time to come into effect, you know, 2 years, 3 years in some cases.
Yes, so I think the targets do sort of ramp up over a couple of years. You're right, to give providers enough time to get their provision up to scratch. But what I would say is that providers are aware of these rules coming in, and so they are already starting to prepare for that. But what I would hope your listeners would notice is a more consistent experience in accessibility. So at the moment, you know, audiences can find a programme might be accessible on a website, but not on, you know, a mobile app. But the media bill should hopefully mean that programmes are audio described across the different platforms and devices that on-demand programmes are available on.
Well, listening to that is Robin Spinks. Robin's the RNIB's head of inclusive design and a keen user of audio description. Robin, I know you haven't had all that long to look at this, but first impressions of Ofcom's report?
We're very encouraged. And it's a really good point about, you know, the world has changed. People are consuming media in all sorts of different devices. I'm listening to podcasts on a watch, for example. Who'd have dreamt that 5 years ago, let alone 10? So the world is changing. And I think what we need to really do here is, rather than specifically thinking about targets, let's think about the holistic experience. How can we get better content that is actually description-led? So it's actually woven into the narrative of shows and plays and documentaries even. I think this is critical.
So part of the production process is what you're saying? Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, you raised the issue of how quickly things are happening. We've got this act now. It succeeds an act which was passed in 2003. And yet we've already talked, Helen and I, about the amount of time some of these things will take coming into effect. The worry is that progress will run way ahead of the legislation.
I mean, we'd absolutely love to see more audio description tomorrow, but I think the challenge is about dealing with what is a patchy and inconsistent and unreliable experience across the board. You know, the target's the minimum threshold. Now it's about going beyond audio description and using as many techniques as possible. We've seen some great progress this year. The King's coronation, for example.
The gold state coach, dazzling coach drenched in gold leaf, supported by four wheels with ornate golden spokes. Painted door panels depicting Roman gods and goddesses.
The Six Nations enhanced commentary, Strictly, for example. You know, these are all firsts in terms of audio description coming to the fore and making it better for everybody. And we're working with creatives. We're also working with that whole industry that build creative content to thoughtfully get people to do more and get people to think about it in a more holistic way at the outset. And just imagine that, you know, the people around you could be one of the 250 people who are told each day that, you know, nothing else can be done to improve your vision or you're going to lose your sight. Just put yourself in that position and imagine how you would go about creating content.
Just finally, Helen, what happens now? I mean, how do you think the TV and streaming platforms will respond to your guidance?
I think they will take our guidance seriously. One thing that we are also setting up today is a new ongoing working group where we want to bring together on-demand providers, broadcasters and charities like the RNIB so that charities and audiences can feed back on how they think the new guidelines are working and where they still want things to be improved. So these guidelines are really the start of ongoing conversations about how to continue to improve accessibility.
Helen Shaw, Robin Spinks, thank you both very much indeed. Well, we stay with AD, but move to blind and partially sighted theatre goers who often complain that they're effectively excluded from productions they'd like to go to because if audio description is provided at all, it's just for one or two shows in the run and even then at inconvenient times. But could all that be about to change? Well, the Royal Shakespeare Theatre's production of A Midsummer Night's Dream might give us a glimpse into the future. In this production, every performance included what's being called creative audio description. And it's not just greater availability which sets it apart, as our reporter Fern Lulham found out.
Well, we've arrived at the Royal Shakespeare Company. I've been reliably informed that there are lots of school kids in tonight, so hope everyone behaves themselves. Anything could happen.
One thing I knew for sure would be happening was that this production of A Midsummer Night's Dream offered creative audio description. I wanted to know what that entailed, so I tracked down the creative programme developer for access and inclusion at the Royal Shakespeare Company, Josepha Hunter-McKinnon, to get to the bottom of it.
Creative audio description is delivered by the company off stage as their characters. And there's also, it's worth mentioning, little nuggets of the script that have been changed on stage to kind of allow for audio integration. Shakespeare's plays already have a lot of audio description in a way in the script. You know, I bite my thumb at you, and, you know, when someone draws a sword, it's always mentioned that someone's drawing a sword.
So even in William Shakespeare's day, he was already considering us.
He always writes the stage directions into the script most of the time, yeah.
And I've heard that there's also soundscapes as part of the audio description.
Yes, every time you hear the fairies, they have a wonderful soundscape going on, so you begin to recognise those kind of things as you go along. And we've also got creative audio notes, which are normally read by the audio describer, but this time they are read by members of the company, so they're describing themselves and what their character looks like. Audio description, especially in its traditional format, is definitely seen as an add-on, but making it just creative and making it part of the production and making it appeal a bit more like a bonus, like the DVD extras, I suppose, that you used to get. It definitely gives it more of an appeal. It's for everybody. In a way, it shouldn't necessarily be so narrowly targeted.
Well, if it was down to the actors to deliver the audio description, I thought I'd better speak to one of them about it. And luckily, I had time, just before the show was about to begin.
My name is Esme Hoff, and I play Cobweb the Fairy. It helps build more of a character. I've almost got more of an idea of what Cobweb is like and what her opinions are, because I've been thinking about, you know, what she maybe thinks about the mechanicals or the lovers. It makes the shows feel quicker and more vibrant because you feel like you're in them more, and you kind of get this rare opportunity to feel like you're a part of a scene that you're not in. Immersive theatre is enormous at the moment, and quite rightly, and there is absolutely no reason that creative audio description doesn't need to be an enormous part of that.
Obviously, you're talking from Cobweb's perspective. Are you sort of commenting on the action as she would see it? How does that work?
You really can pepper it with character opinions and character choices. Particularly Cobweb finds the mechanicals absolutely ridiculous, which is really nice to weave into the description. And as you get more comfortable with it, you can add jokes in.
We're deep in the forest now, where my mistress Titania sleeps on her bower. But who comes here? On scooters and bicycles with shining headlights. Oh, I know this lot, it's those pesky mechanicals again. Flute the bellows mender is on rather a large bicycle with enormous headlights. Do you think maybe he's compensating for something? Oh, and here's Snug the joiner. Oh, good, yeah, having a wee on a bush.
There's little bits in the show that I change every night, and it's really lovely because it feels like you kind of have this little conspiratorial conversation with a group of people that not everybody gets. My family were in over the weekend and I said to them, you have to get the audio description headsets. And when we were chatting afterwards, they were saying things like, it just felt like you were in it so much more. Little details like at one point one of the mechanicals eats a biscuit, and if you listen to the audio description you know it's a pink wafer. It's not just any biscuit. Or there's just little choices that some actors make on some evenings, and if you see it happen in the booth you can add it in because you know it's there. It's exciting, and it's not a box to be ticked or, something to think about because we should.
Right, we've just found our seats. I have got my audio description headset at the ready. I'm looking forward to seeing if it's an enhanced experience.
Together we can write an audio description that is in character, in fitting with the tone and the world of the show. Audio description then isn't just about providing access, it's about making sure that it's providing the best possible experience to blind audiences.
Meet Ben Wilson, a blind performer and director of the creative audio description for this and many other productions. So while past Fern sits back and enjoys the show, Ben can explain how the creative AD came to be.
I worked with a great experienced sighted audio describer and with the cast, and as a little team, as a unit, we created the audio description. The opening scene of the show is described by Quince, one of the great iconic characters of Midsummer Night's Dream.
The stage is vast, bare and charcoal grey, but hundreds of orbs hang from the sky. They are alive with light and colour. At the moment, they are high above you, but once we enter the forest, they will float down to create the forest canopy and an eerie dreamscape. And that's just the start of the magic and mischief.
And suddenly you have all the people around you not wearing the audio description headsets looking at you jealously and going, what am I missing out on? I'm missing out on the fun. Often that's the other way around. Often as the blind person, I'm the one who's missing out on all the fun. I've been doing this for a number of years now at various theatres across the country. The ironic thing about audio description is that you can't see it. It's invisible. If you're not the one wearing the headset, you probably don't know it's happening. And so it makes it easy to ignore. It makes it easy for directors and writers and actors to pretend it's not happening. It feels quite insulting because I know from working in the theatre industry how much time and effort and work goes into every detail of the show. The theatre director would never say to their lighting designer, oh, do whatever you like, I don't care. They'd never say to their actors, oh, I don't care how you perform that scene, do it however you like. But that's what happens with audio description. And so to work on a piece of theatre where you're seeing these brilliantly talented people pouring their heart and soul and really working their socks off, it's just a wonderful feeling.
I couldn't help but wonder how making audio description more mainstream might be received, so I found two sighted audience members who had given it a go, Abigail and her mum, Alison.
We were sitting at the side, so the stage is quite long, so it sometimes directed you to something that was happening on the other part of the stage. You suddenly realised that you should be looking perhaps further over. It was also interesting to hear different characters.
Sarcastic comments.
Yes, about how they were behaving.
Has it made you think differently about it now that you've used it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I did say to Mum in the interval that I was surprised in a way at how little that was actually used, because I did worry a bit that it might start to dominate the actual performances.
It's interesting to hear it, how it fitted in with what we were seeing, yes.
And here's my verdict.
Not only was it accessible, but it was also very down to earth. So it was like having a friend next to you telling you what was going on, but actually that friend was a character from the show. I also love this idea of accessibility being exciting and like a bonus for everyone. And if that could be adopted in more areas of life, I just think we'd be onto a winner.
Fern Lulham reporting there, and of course Fern is something of an audio describer herself. And that's it for today. We'd like your reactions to this, wherever audio description is used. Does it work for you? And how could it be improved on TV, films and in the theatre, or indeed anywhere else? You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk, leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338, and you can go to our website, bbc.co.uk/in-touch. From me, Peter White, and producer Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
In the Ventnor area, 2 East Street and Co-op, and Ventnor area skips in 43 Leeson Road.
Cowes area, 128 High Street, Claremont House, Margate Hill. 2 Castle Road, Cowes Area Skips, 43 Moor Green Road.
In the East Cowes area, Skips at 94 Osborne Road.
Freshwater area, British Red Cross Shop, School Green Road.
And in the Yarmouth area, The Cottage, St James Street.